Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm going to read you all the article, How Geography Mapped East Asia, Part 1 of China. I'm going to read that article to you all, so follow along as I read. This is what you're going to be writing your summary on towards the end. It says, how did geography and climate cause cities and villages to appear in parts of East Asia? Why did other areas remain better suited for a nomadic lifestyle? We could begin to answer these questions with a story about floods in China. China's two great rivers are the Yangtze and the Yellow River. These rivers have flooded regularly for at least thousands of years. Still, the floods of 1931 were terrible. On August 19th of that year, the Yangtze rose 53 feet. The resulting flood was one of the most destructive ever seen. The floods were caused by monsoon rains and heavy snowmelt. The rains and snowmelt affected huge areas of southern China. All of this water poured into the Yangtze. The river rose over its banks for hundreds of miles. It was a disaster. 24 million people fled their homes. More than 140,000 people drowned. An area the size of Oklahoma was underwater. The southern capital city of Nanjing was flooded for 6 weeks. This is the power of nature. People have understood it thoroughly throughout history. In China, there is a popular saying, heaven nourishes and heaven destroys. Emperors have tried to control the ups and downs of the environment. Still, environmental patterns have strongly influenced Chinese and East Asian culture. Rivers have become a model for the constant change of natural forces. Natu- Nature is both creator and destroyer. Understanding geography and climate is important to understand a civilization. In this essay, we look at the geography of China. How has it influenced history and culture? China and the United States have similar geography. They are about the same size, both are in the middle latitudes of the northern hemisphere, both have long coastlines, both have diverse landscapes. China is located in East Asia, it borders the Pacific Ocean. The region is also home to the Korean Peninsula and the island nation of Japan. China is the third largest country in the world. Only Russia and Canada are bigger. China's land area is more than 3 million square miles. China also has extensive seas and many islands. It has 11,000 miles of coastline. China is huge. It has a great variety of topography, climate, and vegetation. In the east are fertile plains created by China's great rivers. This region has been settled and farmed for thousands of years. All the great dynasties were located in this area. In the north are wide open grasslands. They were home to the cattle raising nomadic peoples. These nomads interacted and clashed with China's settled populations. The vast grass oceans were home to militarized archer warriors such as the Mongols. Parts of the Great Wall were built to keep these groups out. The southern regions of China are hill country and low mountain ranges. The south receives a lot of rain. It's the perfect place to grow rice. Rice farmers have been successful in this area for the last 10,000 years. The rice has helped China to support a very large population. China is also a mountainous country. The highest of these mountain ranges are the Himalayas. All are located in the west. They act as a barrier to communication and travel, but they aren't the only barrier. Between the mountain ranges are harsh deserts like the Taklamakan and Gobi. There is a little land for agriculture in the west. The smallest populations have lived in oasis settlements. Some live as nomads on the steppes. Chinese civilization emerged in the more fertile east, north, and south. China was isolated by its own wild west. It was cut off from the rest of Eurasia. Even today, these geographic barriers and the huge size of Western China affect China's relations with the Western neighbors. These barriers have advantages too. Chinese governments throughout history have been forced to focus internally. Instead of expanding, they focused on improving what they have. The mountains and deserts of the West limited contact between early Chinese dynasties and other civilizations. For thousands of years, there was virtually no contact. Eventually, traders moving along the Silk Road broke through these barriers. These were the first connections between China and the rest of Afro-Eurasia. The Silk Road allowed many ideas and inventions from East Asia to reach the West. Paper, printing, and gunpowder were invented in China. The Silk Road brought them to Europe. The effect there was enormous. China's two river systems have also greatly influenced its history and culture. The Huanghe in the north is also known as the Yellow River. It carries huge amounts of yellow soil called silt from the plains into the ocean. The Yellow River rises in the mountains of Tibet. It flows 2,920 miles to the South Yellow Sea. During its journey, it crosses the high western plateau. It flows through northern deserts. Finally, it spills out onto the broad alluvial plain. About midway along its course, the river takes a series of sharp turns before resuming its path. This is called the Great Bend. The bend was once thought of as a frontier. To early people, it was the very edge of the civilized world. Beyond it were barbarians on the grasslands. Warmer, warrior nomads like the Zhanghu and the Mongols lived there. They were China's strongest enemies. The Yellow River is also known as China's sorrow. Its devastating floods have caused great misery. The earliest cities, states, and civilizations of East Asia all appeared along its banks. For thousands of years, some of the largest populations in the world lived near the Yellow River. They risked devastation from flooding. Emperors tried to control the floods. They had very little success. The other major river in China is the Yangtze. The Yangtze is the third longest river in the world. Only the Nile and Amazon are longer. The Yangtze flows from the Tibetan Plateau nearly 4,000 miles through southern China. It empties into the sea near Shanghai. The river's basin area is about one-fifth the size of China. It is home to almost 500 million people. If the Yangtze Valley were a country, it would be the third most populous in the world. The Yangtze also had a great bend to the north. The Yangtze's bend has perhaps been more important to Chinese civilization than the Yellow Rivers. In southwestern China, the great rivers all flow through Himalayan valleys from north to south. They flow south to the seas of Southeast Asia. The Yangtze could have gone the same way. Billions of Chinese wouldn't have had its life-giving water. Yet sitting right in the middle of the Yangtze is Cloud Mountain. This massive wall of limestone blocks the crushing Yangtze. The river is forced to interrupt its journey south and turn sharply back to its north. The Chinese give credit for the placement of Cloud Mountain to the legendary Emperor Yu the Great. They believe he was able to keep the river in China. Geologists believed it was caused by plates moving below the Earth's surface. Whether its origin, Cloud Mountain had a huge effect on Chinese history. All right, that is the How China Was Mapped in East Asia article. What you're going to do with this is you're just going to write a summary, one paragraph summary about what we just read about. If you guys have any questions, please let me know.